Alright, this is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and today I have a few juicers with me and some amazing fresh produce, fruits and some vegetables here. And today actually I'm not going to be doing any kind of juicer comparison or talking about the benefits of the fruits and the vegetables. What I will be talking about are recent scientific studies, and actually I got 9 of them here that I've all printed out. And we'll put links down below to each one of these so you guys can review these in person if you want to read them all. I basically have been researching this topic for the last 2 days, reading the different studies, and basically going to highlight for you some of the science, that talks about juicing and its potential benefits, right? Now, the first thing I want to give a disclaimer, is that, before making any dietary changes, or if you have a health challenge or health opportunity, like I like to say, please consult your physician or doctor. They are the qualified personnel to do that, and you may also want to talk to them about making any dietary changes. In some cases, certain produce items may have drug interactions, all right? So that's the disclaimer. Now, the other disclaimer I'm going to say, although all these studies are linked down below, and you feel free to read all of them yourself, this is my interpretation of them. I have a bachelor's degree, and I believe I'm a fairly intelligent person. And so if I misconstrue the information, I apologize. It is not intentional. I'm just basically a layman, trying to dispel what these scientific studies say. I have friends that will go over this stuff and kind of more know exacting, but some of this stuff, in my opinion, is not super rocket science, and it makes a lot of sense to me on one level. And it's basically what I promote and teach, right? What I promote and teach that comes out of my mouth is not just random stuff based on dogma. A lot of people may have things against drinking juices and things because they think the fiber is removed, and we will definitely discuss that because it is discussed in some of these scientific articles. But what I say comes from the science that I do review on a regular basis and try to keep up to date with that. It's quite unfortunate that plant-based doctors that cover some of the science, in my opinion, are thwarted or have a bias, in my opinion, against juicing, because juicing is a way of processing food, and in my opinion, juicing is a very minimal way of processing food. There are much worse ways of processing food than juicing, and according to the science that I'll share with you guys today, juicing still can have a way positive and beneficial impact on your health, and I think to ignore such studies, and all these studies that I'm reviewing with you guys today over the last 2 years, maybe there's some more I could have found, but they came out late 2018 and 2019, so this is the most recent research. And also, I have looked at studies in the past from 2014, 2012, where they compare different extraction methods and different nutrients that are being extracted from the juice, and they're all basically around the same kind of thing. But I'm glad to share this with you because some will be a little bit valuable. Some of these studies are about oxalate content of raw, boiled, wok, fried, and juice and pesto. Exploratory study on the effects of daily fruit and vegetable juice on human gut microbiota. Probiotic viability of vegetable juices mixed fermented with lactobacillus strains, an investigation of antidepressant activity of fresh fruit juices, the effects of methods of phytochemical and antioxidant characteristics of the purple prickly pear, watermelon juice, a novel food to increase circulating lycopene in older adult women, role of fruit juice in achieving the 5-a-day recommendation for fruit and vegetable intake. And those are hemoprotective effects of grape juice prepared by a low-speed masticating juicer. And I picked out each one of these studies for a specific reason or a specific message that I hope to sum up for you guys. And once again, links are down below if you guys want to read them all yourself. And I guess without any further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it, So I guess first off, I'd like to share my comments. My comments are there are a lot of people that speak out of their butt online, based on dogma or their preconceived beliefs. So I'd encourage you guys to leave those behind when watching this video and listen to the science. I'm going to interpret the science, link once again down below to all the studies. You could read them yourself to educate yourself about these topics as proven by published, documented scientific journal work, which I would tend to agree, although there's some caveats to that as well. But in general, eating more fruits and vegetables by juicing them just makes sense to me to increase the quantity of the healthiest foods on the planet, especially the leafy green, the vegetables, and the fruits. So that's pretty much it. Let's get into this. So this is going to be the longest study that I'm going to be going over. Some of the other ones are pretty short, but this is the one that meant the most to me because it kind of really attempts to dispel the myths about, juice and why it's bad, and most people would consider it bad, because most people think it in analog fashion, okay? Either you're right or you're wrong, you're good or you're bad. Juice, it's bad because it has a sugar, right? Or juice is good because it has nutrients, right? It's like life is not all that simple. I'm sure at different times you've hated your husband, wife, girlfriend, or boyfriend, but it's not like they're bad. Maybe they did something that you didn't like, but overall, they're a good person. So, nothing in life is ever like cut and dry, and there's always shades of gray, and I think this article really does a good job to go over that. So I'm going to just read from the article, so for a lot of you guys this may be pretty boring, but for a lot of you guys it may be also very educational. And once again, I took the time to research all these studies, have them in this video, and once again, links are down below, so you got to check them out yourself, alright? So the topic of this is from Nutrition Review, Volume 77, 11-829-143, and it's a role of fruit juice in achieving the 5-a-day recommendation for fruit and vegetable intake, alright? And I'm just going to read from the study here. Although there is strong evidence that consumption of fruit and vegetables is associated with a reduced rate of all-cause mortality, only a minority of the population consumes 5 servings a day, and campaigns to increase intake have limited success. This review examines whether encouraging the consumption of fruit juice might offer a step towards the 5-a-day target. Reasons given for not consuming whole fruit involves practicalities, inconvenience, and the effort required. Physiologically, what is important is not only basic information about health, but how individuals interpret their ability to implement that information. It has been argued that fruit juice avoids the problems that commonly prevent fruit consumption, and thus provides a practical means of increasing intake and benefiting health through an approach with which the population can readily engage. Those arguing against consuming fruit juice emphasize that it is a source of sugar, lacking fiber, yet juice provides nutrients such as vitamin C, carotenoids, and polyphenols that offer health-related benefits. And actively encouraging the daily consumption of fruit juice in public health policy could help populations achieve the 5-a-day recommendations for fruit and vegetable intake. Alright, so that's directly quoted from the study. Here's my 2 cents. The fact of the matter is that people do not eat enough fruits and vegetables, and that, I also believe, while fruit juice may be, good for people that aren't eating fruit, and instead of eating no fruit, drink some juice, right? I also agree that, we shouldn't focus on juicing primarily fruits. So another thing I'd like to differentiate now, and this is my personal opinion, maybe not reflected in the studies, is that I only believe in fresh-made juices, like juices that you make fresh with your produce at home, with your own juicer, right? Once produce starts to get processed in big factories, things starting getting removed, it starts getting more ultra processed, in my opinion. It starts to get pasteurized, it starts to get filtered, and then in my opinion you lose nutrients, including things like enzymes, and also you may be losing all the microbiome benefits that you are receiving from eating a pasteurized juice, when the goal of pasteurization, or even HPP, which is a non-heat way of killing bacteria, is to remove the bacteria so the product is shelf stable and doesn't have any kind of contamination issues. So I want to be clear on that. The other thing that I'll be clear on is that a lot of fruit juices you buy in the store, or just juices in the store, may not be 100% juice. You could read the label. I was just at the store the other day, and some of the juices it says juice drink. You gotta watch out, but it looks like juice, and it's in the juice section. And if you look at the nutrition label, it says contains 30% juice, because there's like sugar water in there, high fructose corn syrup, and other things. I'm not talking about those kind of juices in these studies. Neither of these studies. These studies are talking about 100% fruit juice with the naturally occurring sugar that would have occurred in the fruit as if you ate the fruit itself. Alright, so I want to be clear on that point right now. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue reading here. In many countries, although not all, half or 1 glass of unsweetened 100% fruit or vegetable juice counts towards 5 portions a day. Yet, some have claimed that fruit juice is little more than a source of sugar, predisposing consumers to weight gain and obesity, and have proposed that fruit juice should not be included. The veracity of this argument has been examined, and given advantages in terms of the ease of consumption of juice, it was considered whether a recommendation to consume fruit juice might be simple and effective means of moving towards the goal of 5 servings a day. It was concluded that 100% fruit juice should be distinguished from juice sweetened with sugar, but that daily consumption would benefit large sections of the population. In this area, the argument has tended to be based on a particular isolated nutrient, usually sugar, but to a lesser extent fiber. There is a need, however, to remember that 100% juice, the topic of this review, does not have added sugar and should be distinguished from sweetened juices and fruit cordials. Nevertheless, the World Health Organization suggests limiting levels of free sugars in the diet with the implicit assumption that for public health purposes, all sources can be added together and treated as one. However, Public Health England, when they considered the definition of free sugars, commented that current definitions reflected a, quote, limited understanding of the extent to which the cellular structure of different types of processed foods containing naturally occurring sugar is broken down, and the differences in the psychological response sugar consumed in different forms. This includes the sugars found in fruit. The first objective of this review was to establish the factors that make increasing fruit and vegetable consumption so difficult and to consider the extent to which juice can solve these problems. Then the alleged benefits and alleged negative consequences of drinking juice were examined. To date, the debate has centered on sugar and fiber, although meta-analysis finds that additional portions of fruits and vegetables, but also fruit juice, decrease the risk of coronary heart disease and all-cause mortality. The wider context is that only a small minority of the population consumes the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables, and campaigns to increase intake have little success. If fruit juice offers the means of adding to efforts to consume 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day in a more acceptable way than preparing and consuming intact items, should this become a recommended approach, I bet one that does not replace the existing intake of fruit, and still favors majority of intake being intact fruit. All right, so in my opinion, what they're saying is that people just don't eat enough fruits and vegetables and juice, and they're probably talking about mostly pre-made juices you could grab in a bottle that's 100% juice. You could just grab and drink, and that's a lot easier than grabbing a fruit. Hey, what could be easier than grabbing an apple and eating it? It's like the problem, in my opinion, is that people are not used to these taste sensations. So if a juice is a gateway to getting people into being more accepting to drinking, or eating fruits, I think that's definitely a good thing. And I think you'll learn in this article. So this article is so long, it goes over all things, factors influencing whether individuals achieve 5 things a day, psychosocial factors, and then it goes into like a lot of other different things. But we're going to kind of get to the meat of this, or actually the fiber of this. And we're going to talk about the section on fiber. I'm going to read this section verbatim because it is very important to me. From my opinion, when you juice fruits or vegetables in a juicer, it separates out the fiber. This is totally true. You see the fiber come out the back side of the juicer, the juice come out of the front, depending on what juice you're using. And, when you're doing that, you're basically extracting, you're still getting some of the fiber, right? All the insoluble fiber is coming out of the juicer into the catch bin. Some of the soluble fiber, or most of the soluble fiber, which is soluble in water, comes out with the juice in the juice viga. So, for example, a cactus fruit's high in soluble fiber. In addition, the apples can be high in soluble fiber. Pineapples low in soluble fiber. So when you're juicing pineapples, you're not getting a lot of fiber. Carrots are about 50% soluble, 50% insoluble fiber. So we want you guys to understand this, and it's not as simple as juicing removes all the fiber. Well, maybe if you're buying a pre-made juice in a store that's in a package that's ultra filtered, I can see most of the fiber being removed. And this is being said, that's the simplistic view of fiber being 2 kinds, which is what most people think. But there's many kinds of fiber, more than just soluble and insoluble. There's so many different classifications of fiber. And for the brevity of this video, I'm not going to get into all that stuff, all right? So let's read the topic on fiber in here. Fiber plays an important role in balanced diet because it helps prevent heart disease, diabetes, and some cancers. Thus, for some, a major problem associated with the consumption of juice is the removal of fiber. When juicing the skin pulp, both good sources of fiber are often not included. However, when juice is made by pulping the whole fruit, fiber is provided. In Europe, the recommended fiber intake is 25 to 32 grams a day for women and 30 to 35 grams a day for men. Yet when the data from 14 European countries were considered, the average intake was less than the recommended. In males aged 20 to 35, the highest average intake was 26 grams a day in Germany, Norway, and the United Kingdom. The lowest average was 14 grams a day in Belgium, whereas in France, Italy, and Austria, it was 16 grams a day. In the United States, the average intake was 16 grams a day, a value that compares with recommendation of 38 grams a day for men and 25 grams a day for women. So as you guys can see, fiber intake is falling short in most countries around the world. In this context, the drinking of juice has been viewed as reducing the intake of fiber. There appears, however, to be an implicit assumption that if an individual stops drinking juice, they'll start eating whole fruit. The basis for this unlikely expectation is unclear because the dietary roles played by fruit and a beverage are very different. Why should juice and intact fruit be viewed as alternatives? If an individual drinks juice at breakfast, its removal will result in consuming an alternative beverage. Throughout the day, the thirst will lead to having a drink, or individuals will drink because it is appropriate in a social setting where fruit is not available or when consumption would be socially inappropriate. There's also another implicit assumption that fiber can be viewed as homogeneous matter. However, there are many types of fiber with different physiological consequences. For example, they impact differently on the gut microbiota. Thus, too much emphasis should not be placed on increasing the intake of any one type of fiber, but rather it should be ensured that it is obtained from a range of fruits, vegetables, cereals, bran, nuts, and seeds. A more sophisticated recommendation is required that suggesting the removal of fruit juice from any diet, although the findings need to be treated cautiously. A meta-analysis found that cereal and, to a lesser extent, vegetable fiber were associated with lower total mortality, although fruit fiber was not. I'll repeat this for some people repeating dogma about, fruit juice is bad, or, you should eat the whole fruit instead, right? Once again, I'll repeat this. Although findings need to be treated cautiously, a meta-analysis found that cereal and, to a lesser extent, vegetable fiber were associated with total lower mortality, although fruit fiber was not. What does that mean in layman's terms? To me, that means that, if you eat more vegetable fiber and fiber from cereals, your overall cause of losing your life is a lot less, and that was not significant when eating fruit fiber, right? Once again, there's many different kinds of fiber, and in my opinion, some are more beneficial than others. I would rather, if you're removing fiber and making a juice, I think the better thing to do instead of adding that fruit fiber back in is to grind up some flax seeds. Flax seeds have all different kinds of fiber, lignins, and nutrients in there that have been shown in studies to be, helpful against things like cancer, breast cancer in women. All right. Okay, now let's continue on. Although the logic appears muddled, one argument for not consuming fruit juice is that it contains less fiber than intact fruits. Yet, nobody suggests stopping eating meat or fish because they contain no fiber. Rather, the overall contribution made to the diet justifies their consumption. Similarly, any recommendation to consume fruit juice must be made in the context of the entire diet, such as the addition would have a positive impact. In fact, there have been many reports that the consumption of juice is associated with a better quality diet, including a greater consumption of intact fruit and vegetables, and hence more fiber. A round table of experts concluded that removing juice from the diet would reduce daily fruit consumption and increase the drinking of SBB, that's sugar-sweetened beverages such as soda and whatnot. In the United Kingdom, those drinking 100% fruit juice were 42% more likely to achieve 5 a day because there was also greater intake of whole fruit and vegetables. In a French representative sample, the consumption of juice was associated with a diet of higher quality with higher intakes of fruits and vegetables than with non-consumers. Importantly, fruit juice has a greater influence on the fruit and vegetable intake of those with lower socioeconomic status, such that the removal of juice from the diet of the financially less well-off would have greater impact on the healthiness of their diet. So what are they saying? They're saying a lot. So in my opinion, what they're saying is that if you're going to drink fruit juice, then maybe you're going to get a taste for fruits, and then maybe you're more likely to eat fruits and vegetables. And this is why I recommend juicing as the gateway drug to turn your health around. If you're used to eating processed foods and junk foods, right? I've seen juicing turn so many people's lives around by simply starting adding juice. And then you've got to start out with making a fruit juice. Make a pineapple juice. It tastes good, you'll like it, you'll drink it, and then start adding some of those leafy greens into the pineapple juice until you get to maybe half leafy greens, half pineapple juice. And now you're drinking more leafy greens, which you normally would have never drank, because the pineapple help you kind of get them in. And then also, as you go on in the juicing process, if you're especially used to eating junk foods, processed foods, and foods high in sugar, right, you're going to get benefits from the juices, according to these studies, but more importantly, your taste buds are going to change slowly over time, and you're going to be accustomed to eating more fruits and vegetables. And that's kind of what they're saying here from what I get out of this, all right? So let's continue on. Possible negative influences of fruit juice, right? With every pro, there's a con, and I'm not going to blow smoke up your butt and say fruit juices are the best in the world, because I personally would rather drink vegetable juices. So let's get into that. In summary, the fructose associated with fruit sugar is no more likely to be stored as body fat than other sugars. Although when juiced, less fiber is consumed than intact fruit. There is no reason to believe that intact and juiced fruit should be viewed as an alternative. They are consumed in different circumstances. In fact, those consuming juice tend to consume more intact fruit and vegetables with an associated greater intake of fiber. So here's the thing, right? I don't want you to start juicing all your fruit because you got a juicer. I still want you guys to eat plenty of fruit. Add some fruit to your juices if you need to get those juices down that contain more vegetables. That being said, depending on where you are in the world and your path, fruit juices, if it's displacing, in my opinion, things like soda or even kombucha, which is basically using white powdered sugar in there, it's a good thing, all right? So let's continue on. This article is quite long, so I apologize, but I hope you're getting something out of this. And if you like this video, hey, please give me a thumbs up. Also, please be sure to support me if you like my work, like that I'm bringing you this kind of reporting, this information. Please make your purchase at discountjuicers.com. This allows me to continue to make these videos, buy my produce, to make the video, comparisons that I do on YouTube, and it's much appreciated. Big mega corporations are not sitting here going over scientific studies that I basically reviewed, read, and hopefully summarizing for you in a lot shorter format than reading the whole thing, okay? And making it easier to digest for people that don't read or that don't want to read and would prefer to listen to a video. Like I listen to videos when I'm preparing food in my kitchen. So hopefully some of you guys out there are making juice right now or making your healthy dinners and food, and you're listening to this. So I appreciate you guys for doing that. Thank you guys in advance for those of you guys that will support me by making your purchase at discountjuicers.com. And thank you guys who have supported me in the past. I really appreciate it a lot because it allows me to continue to do what I love, to try to just get people to eat more fruits and vegetables. All right, let's go ahead and continue on. Bioactive molecules. When considering the role of fruit juices, a major factor is that they are a rich source of vitamin C, carotenoids, and polyphenols. However, to demonstrate a parallel between juice and intact fruit, there's a need to show that they act in a similar manner. Alright, so our first question is, does processing influence the properties of the juice? Commercial rather than domestic squeezing has been reported to extract 25% more vitamin C, and pasteurization slightly increase the levels extracted from solids. Pasteurization, concentration, and freezing do not significantly affect the total antioxidant capacity due to vitamin C. So although, they're comparing commercial processes of juicing, which is done on a mass scale, and they got to use things like pasteurization, in my opinion, that's not as good as making it yourself fresh, because you're going to get a bigger microbiome influence, in my opinion, including beneficial microbes, as well as, more intact fiber that's not processed out, and also enzymes and more nutrients that can be degraded during the heat-based pasteurization process, right? A second question is whether juice consumption impacts human physiology, because fruit juices deliver compounds that improve antioxidant status. Crow-White et al., 57, subjected the topic to systematic review. The summated evidence from 10 trials suggests that 100% fruit juice improved a range of antioxidant biomarkers and the levels of other nutrients. For example, adding orange juice to the normal diet 3 times a day for 3 weeks increased the blood level of vitamin C 59%, folate 46%, carotenoid 22%, and flavonone 8-fold, Silvera et al. Asked normal weight individuals to consume red orange juice each day for 8 weeks. Low density lipoprotein, LDL cholesterol, and C-reactive protein levels decreased, whereas antioxidant activity in serum increased and insulin resistance and systolic blood pressure declined. So they're seeing results from basically using juices. So when they talk about red orange juice, that's basically blood orange juice, which may be available near you now. I would encourage you guys, when juicing oranges, try to always find the blood oranges if they are available, also known as Taraco oranges. They're much more richly, deeply pigmented. And my side comment note is I want you guys to always choose a more colorful, deeply pigmented produce. If you have the option of choosing the purple carrots to juice or the orange carrots, go for the purple. Based on other studies that we'll probably be talking about a little bit, they're definitely more nutritious, okay? Vitamin C, right? Water-soluble vitamin C fulfills a wide range of functions. Having antioxidant properties, it protects against the damage caused by free radicals that have a role in aging and the development of cancer, heart disease, and arthritis. It is involved in healing wounds and maintaining connective tissue and the structure of blood vessels, skin, and bone. Various fruit juices are a good source of vitamin C, including guavas, kiwis, blackcurrants, strawberries, oranges, and papayas. Then they talk about some different studies they did with kids, but let's go ahead and move on. And basically, in summary, it says, a good vitamin C status is associated with a range of health benefits because juice makes substantial contribution to the level of vitamin C intake. Their removal from the diet may reduce vitamin C status with the risk of an adverse influence on health. So for example, I mean, not that I'm a big fan of orange juice in the morning, because I'm not. If you just cut out the orange juice, now you're not going to get vitamin C. And what many people don't know, and it's in a study, and I think I highlighted it later, we'll talk about, is that vitamin C does not persist in your body for any long particular amount of time. You know, it comes in, it gets digested, it goes through your bloodstream, and then it kind of leaves, you know, within a few hours, right? So for that reason, I don't recommend like pounding a ton of juice in the morning and then not drinking it the rest of the day and then just having your junk food, right? You want to drink, especially high vitamin C and other, you know, antioxidant-rich juices throughout the day, so you always have those high levels in your bloodstream, especially if you're not eating fruits and vegetables throughout the day, like I am, all right? Let's go ahead and continue. Aside from vitamin C, which my dad had a really big kick on, because that was like, you know, when they learned about vitamin C back in the 70s and whatnot, the carotenoids. More than 1,000 carotenoids fall into two classes, xanthophenols and carotenes, that are found in fruit and vegetables that are colored orange, red, or yellow. Humans do not synthesize carotenoids, so to benefit, they must be part of the diet. Carotenoids act as antioxidants, and beta-carotene can be converted into vitamin A. Vegetables such as carrots and spinach are a good source of carotenoids, but carotenoids also found in plums, apricots, mangoes, colored melons, peaches, nectarines, sour cherries, and some citrus fruits such as red grapefruits, tangerines, and oranges. Particular attention has been directed to lycopene, a bright red carotenoid found in tomatoes, guavas, watermelon, papaya, and pink and red grapefruit. The level of carotenoids in the human skin are an indicator of the antioxidant status of the body, although there are richer sources of carotenoids. Adding orange juice to the diet increases the body levels. Drinking orange juice for 25 days increased carotenoid status by 10 to 15%, depending on starting values. Values, however, return to baseline levels within 3 days of stopping drinking the juice, right? So what does that tell you? I mean, juice is not a fad. It should just be some kind of juice fast. You go on for a couple of days, 3 days, a week, a month. You know, this is something you should do for life if you are concerned about getting good nutrition in you on a regular basis. And that's why, unless I'm traveling, I pretty much drink juice daily. As needed, beta-carotene is converted into vitamin A, which has important roles in functioning of the immune system, mucous membranes, vision, and the skin, given clear evidence that the consumption of fruits and vegetables reduce the incidence of various diseases. Their powerful antioxidant properties make it likely that carotenoids are part of the underlying mechanism. Due to the antioxidant properties of carotenoids, their consumption is being related to the incidence of head and neck cancer. A meta-analysis of epidemiological studies found that when compared with a lowest level of intake, higher levels of beta-carotene were associated with a relative risk of 46% of developing oral cancer and 57% of developing laryngeal cancer. In addition, lycopene, alpha-carotene, and beta-cryptxanthin were all associated with a reduction in the rate of oral and pharyngeal cancer. I think pharynx, at least 26%. Similarly, a meta-analysis considered prospective studies that had related blood concentrations of carotenoids to the development of breast cancer. An inverse association was found between the total level of carotenoids and the subsequent development of cancer. More specifically, there was a negative association with beta-carotene. All right, so I will say that I did recently get my beta-carotene levels tested, and my beta-carotene levels were basically higher than the reference range. Reference range went to like around 96 or something, and my range was like around 200. So I had twice the beta-carotene of the high level on the blood test, which in my opinion is a good thing, because these are the nutrients that, in my opinion, will basically make us disease-proof, if that's what you're going for and that's what you want. All right, wow, continuing on, lots of stuff here, all right? So now we're going to talk about polyphenols, because it is covered in this article. This article is, if you don't read any of the other articles in here, just read this one. I like this one the most because it really kind of goes into topic of each of the topics on why juicing is good, and also some of the reasons why juicing is thought to be not so good. And, I think it portrays a pretty good, accurate, representation, all right? So polyphenols. Fruit high in polyphenols include blueberries, cherries, cranberries, pomegranates, apples, apricots, grapefruits, oranges, red grapes, raspberries, strawberries, blackberries, gooseberries, plums, and kiwis. One group of flavonoids, the anthocyanins, which give plants their red, purple, and blue color, are attracting increased interest for their antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antiviral properties. They are found particularly in purple grapes, cherries, raspberries, blueberries, and plums. Silvera et al. Examined the pharmacokinetics of the main flavonoid glucosides found in origin, hesperidin, and nitrium. They found no difference in the dynamics of freshly squeezed and processed juice. After a single drink, levels peaked 2 hours after consumption and approached zero after 12 hours, with none being measurable after 24 hours. Manich et al. Calculated this time scale following consumption of the levels of plasma polyphenols, gallic acid, and isoflavonoids were most readily absorbed, followed by catechins, flavonones, and quercetin glucosides, although the kinetics differ. When part of the diet, the half-life of anthocyanins have been found to vary between 1 to 4 hours, flavonols 1 to 13 hours, flavonoids 1 to 3 hours, flavonols 1 to 3 hours, and isoflavones 4 to 6 hours. Generalization are difficult given the thousands of phenolic compounds that exist. However, an impression that to maintain a high plasma concentration of polyphenols that need to be consumed regularly, for example, the flavonoids in orange juice like hesperidin and nargin have a half-life of about 2 hours in the blood. There remain a need for greater understanding of the relationship between metabolic outcomes and consuming 100% fruit juice. A particular interest is the role played by polyphenols in prevention of cancer, heart disease, and osteoporosis, and neurodegenerative diseases. A meta-analysis of 22 prospective studies related flavonoid consumption to all-cause mortality. A high intake reduced the risk of all-cause mortality, relative risk 0.74. More specifically, when 143 studies were considered cancer were integrated, a prospective study, the consumption of isoflavones were associated with a decreased risk of lung and stomach cancers, and an effect on breast and colorectal cancers just missed statistical significance. So wow, what are they saying and all that stuff? Basically what I get out of that is that the polyphenols be quite beneficial, quite anti-disease potentially, and should be consumed regularly in your diet. That's why pretty much throughout the day I'm eating fresh fruits and vegetables of all different kinds. And once again, I want to let you guys know that each fruit and vegetable has a whole different spectrum of different phytonutrients, phytochemicals, flavonoids, and all these different things. So, don't just always juice apples. Mix it up. Get those pears sometimes. Maybe juice some quince, although that's going to taste not so good. Juice different kinds of produce that you normally wouldn't get, because all the different produce items, in my opinion, based on my research, have so many different beneficial compounds that may be beneficial for us. And if you never get them into you, you're not going to get the benefits of those compounds. All right, continuing on. Summarizing the influence of the bioactive molecules supplied by fruit and fruit juices, meta-analysis of prospective cohort studies, but not RCTs, have found their consumption of carotenoids to be associated with a decreased incidence of a range of cancers. In particular, lycopene consumption has been found in a dose-response manner to be associated with a reduced rate of prostate cancer. Similarly, a higher flavonoid intake results in a lower all-cause mortality. Intake of isoflavonoids reduce the incidence of lung and stomach cancer. The intake of flavonoids in a dose-dependent manner reduce the incidence of T2DM, and increased intake of vitamin C is associated with lower blood pressure and better control of glucose in T2DM. Next, let's go ahead and talk about cardiovascular diseases according to this study here, and we'll just get to the summary here. In summary, a series of reports found that fruit juice reduced the risk of disease, although the findings are inconsistent and the amount of juice consumed tended to be in excess of the currently recommended level. In addition, most trials have been for a short period and have involved a small number of participants. Positive findings have, however, been reported often enough to suggest that there should be further study of risk of cardiovascular disease. So finally, we're going to get into discussion, the last part of this article. There are varying views concerning the impact on the health of consuming 100% fruit juice. At one extreme, it is viewed as a source of sugar that leads to obesity, and at the other, it is seen as providing a range of bioactive molecules that benefit health. Yet, if one looks at the views of the national body's settling food policy after considering the full range of evidence, the majority give the same advice. Fruit juice may contribute to the 5-day recommendation for fruit and vegetable consumption. For example, the U.S. Dietary Guidelines states that 100% fruit juice may be consumed, but in moderation. The potential benefits are considerable because there is overwhelming evidence that the consumption of fruits and vegetables benefit health. Because juice contains the same molecules as intact fruit, it is likely to have contribution to make, although the emphasis needs to be on 100% fruit juice rather than juices that are sugar sweetened. Unfortunately, to date, most of the literature has not distinguished 100% fruit juice, and therefore conclusions and recommendations confuse it with sugar sweetened juices. However, both the weight gain in children and diabetes in adults meta-analysis have found that sugar sweetened juices are similar to the other SSBs, although both differ from 100% juices. The negative consequences of SSBs were not found in those consuming 100% juice. So I want to go ahead and give my 2 cents there. So here's the thing, right? If your 100% juice contains more than just the sugar, right? It contains water, it contains beneficial phytonutrient phytochemicals, maybe some fiber too, depending on how the juice was made. And it's not only the fiber, but also the polyphenols and antioxidants in the fruits that can also help regulate the absorption of sugar as well as other nutrients in there. And I mean, in my opinion, the food acts like synergistically in the body when we're digesting it. We're used to eating foods in a form that's not totally fractionated. And for example, I talked about lycopene earlier, and even though lycopene's good, you can't just take a lycopene supplement to get your lycopene. They found that actually certain supplements, such as vitamin D, even lycopene, can be bad just by isolating out nutrients. So we want to try to get as much of the whole complete fruit or vegetable as possible to gain the benefits from that, all right? So continuing on, yet it is a minority of the population who achieve the recommended intake of fruits and vegetables, and for practical reasons and convenience, there is resistance to making dietary changes. However, if it is acceptable to count juice as one of the 5 servings a day, given the low level of fruit and vegetable intake, the recommendation that it be consumed on a daily basis is a small step to take. In the absence of alternatives, encouraging the daily drinking of fruit juice offers a simple and convenient way to increase the intake of fruits. Those who advocate reducing the drinking of juice tend to worry that it leads to obesity, as in a similar manner to all food items, excessive consumption has a potential to result in weight gain. However, the majority of the population do not drink any fruit juice, and the total amount consumed by the population has been declining for many years. And then also, the frequency of consumption declines with age, and when consumed, the average intake is small, particularly in poor sections of the population. Juice may be the source of fruit, and individuals would suffer if it was removed from the diet. It is this group that would be predicted to benefit most from adding juice to their diet. So what are they saying there? So in my opinion, I think it's just blatant and should just not be promoted. That don't drink fruit juice, it's bad, because that will basically confuse people more, and then they'll think, oh, fruit juice is bad, so fruit is bad too, then they won't eat either, right? I'm saying, hey, eat your fruits, eat as many fruits as you possibly can. In the cases you're not going to eat fruits, hey, have some juice. If you need some juice to integrate and get more vegetables in you, I think that's a good thing too. All right, wow, we still got more of this article here. All right, so continuing on from the article. However, the decline in the consumption of fruit juice over recent years is probably in part due to the emphasis on the sugar content, creating the perception that juice is unhealthy. A positive aura emphasizing the bioactive molecules provided will be needed to develop a perception that juice is a health food, rather than current emphasis on its sugar content, which implies it is a junk food. Care would need to be taken to ensure that 100% fruit juice is consumed in moderate amounts and that it does not replace intact fruit. Although by no means solving the entire problem, a recommendation to consume juice offers a step in the right direction because it is convenient and avoids most of the reasons for not consuming. There's a good chance that dietary behavior will change. Once again, I think they're saying that fruit juice could be a gateway to getting people to eat more fruits and vegetables, and in that reason, it's a good thing. Conclusion, I'll read this verbatim. The takeaway message is that only a small portion of the population achieves the 5-a-day recommendation for fruits and vegetables intake, and provided difficult to increase consumption because of the practicalities, inconvenience, and the effort required when consuming whole fruit. Physiologically, believing that one can successfully carry out the behavior, self-efficacy is fundamental to changing behavior because fruit juice avoids many of the reasons for not consuming intact fruit. It can promote self-efficacy and thus encourage consumption. This review does not suggest that fruit juice should replace intact fruit. In fact, the opposite is most likely, as in practice, juice and intact fruit are consumed in different circumstances and rarely alternatives, because fruit juice offers a source of vitamin C, carotenoids, and polyphenols, including increasing consumption has the potential to benefit health. So I mean, I would basically go with that. So that's the first study. Luckily that was the longest, and the rest are all fairly short, all right? So next we're going to talk about watermelon juice. In this study, watermelon juice, a novel functional food increasing circulating lycopene in older adult women. This is just kind of corresponding to that other article that there are properties in juices that are beneficial for us, and I'll read this. Because of accruing oxidative stress with advancing age, older adults may benefit from increased dietary intake of lycopene, a lipophilic carotenoid with potential antioxidant properties. Yet intake of dietary lycopene as well as circulating lycopene levels are known to decrease with aging. Watermelon is one of the few sources of dietary lycopene. Because heat treatment increases lycopene viability, the ingestion of watermelon in pasteurized juice form may be an optimal delivery vehicle to increase lycopene levels in older adults. However, due to its lipophilic nature, there are concerns that co-ingestion of dietary fat may be necessary for efficient intestinal absorption of lycopene. Thus, this feasibility study aimed to examine the effects of a one-time dose of 100% pasteurized watermelon juice on circulating lycopene concentrations of postmenopausal women after a 10-hour overnight fast. Blood was sampled from 8 women before and 2 hours after ingestion of 360 milliliters of juice, and serum lycopene was measured by ultra-high performance liquid chromatography. Circulating lycopene levels increased by 3-fold, with increases observed for every patient. Results demonstrate that 100% watermelon juice is a palatable, effective means for increasing serum lycopene in older women and a group at risk for low carotenoid intake. Yeah, so that's this study. So what are they saying? Basically, fruits and vegetables have beneficial compounds, and when you drink them and eat them in their whole form, or even juice them, you will get and confer some of those benefits. 3 times a lycopene by just drinking 360 milliliters of juice. What if, every different juice has different levels of nutrients, right? That's why I try to drink, good amounts of different kinds of juice each and every day in my life, all right? This is another study here, and talking about the effect of juicing methods on phytochemical and antioxidant characteristics of the prickly purple pear, preliminary findings on juice and the pomace. So what is prickly pear cactus? Right here, this is one of my favorite fruits in the world to juice, and I'll be honest with you, much like the first article said, right? If I had to depend on eating prickly cactus pears to just eating them whole, I probably wouldn't do it. Why? I mean, I have friends that eat this fruit. This fruit is so seedy. It is insane how seedy it is. I don't like to swallow seeds for some reason in my head, although they'll go right through you. I just don't like dealing with the seeds. So that's why if I didn't juice this, I would be eating very few to little cactus fruits. In addition, my personal opinion is that if, juicing a fruit or vegetable gets you to eat more of that fruit or vegetable than you would otherwise eat, juicing is then a good thing. So beets, I might shred a beet up on a salad once in a while. I'll have some fermented beet, sauerkraut or something. But I don't eat a lot of beets, right? But by juicing beets, I could get more beets into me that I wouldn't have eaten, and beets are a powerful food, much like any of the foods on the entire planet. I would encourage you guys to look into getting some of the beneficial carotenoids from the cactus fruit if you're able to source and get them near you. I find that Mexican markets generally have those for a good price if you have Mexican or Latin markets near you. And I think right now they're out of season, but maybe some of you guys could be wild harvesting them if you guys live in the Southwest, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about this study. It's pretty long, but we're not going to really talk about a lot of the parts of it. We're just going to kind of summarize and pick out some parts that I thought were interesting. Abstract. Prickly pear is often overlooked due to its short shelf life. Juicing may improve marketability, but often affects quality, thereby warranting investigation. Purple PP, whole WF, and flesh FF, that's like they're peeling it, was juiced using a stick blender, SB, and jug blender, JB, and juicers, commercial, CJ, which is probably like this machine here, high-speed juicer, and a CP juicer, so that's like a cold press juicer like this one here. And they go into all this, but I'm not really going to get into all this stuff because a lot of this stuff is more kind of like techno geek for like people processing cactus fruits. I just kind of want to know about, using the different extraction methods. What did they see? So for example, it says free radical capacity DPPH of prickly pear fruit juice and methylmalonic pomace extracts, and it says the highest content with consideration of processing methods were reported in juices obtained by cold press. Let's see here, 851 plus or minus 437 UMTE, followed by juice obtained by the commercial juicer FF 753 plus minus 15.1 UMTE, jug blender, which is a standard blender, and then lastly the stick blender. and the commercial blender had 753, the jug blender had 709, and the stick blender had 667. And I want to discuss this really fast. Why would the free radical capacity of a juice made in a slow juicer be higher than that of a fast juicer? Well, it just, this is what I've been trying to teach you guys forever, and I'm glad it appears in studies like this, as well as other studies I have shown in the past. Once again, I don't kind of pull things out of thin air. I always have a reason for what I say. I'm trying to be as accurate as I possibly can, although I don't always get it right either. But in this case, in my opinion, based on what they're saying, the slow juicer that runs at a slow RPM, like 43 RPM in the case of the Omega VSJ, which is the juicer that I like the most at present time that's on the market, doesn't run so fast. And whereas a high-speed juicer like the Breville here runs at 10,000 RPMs, the higher RPMs, the more oxygen that's being introduced into the antioxidants, which in my opinion is reducing its free radical capacity, in the end after it's made. Likewise, a high-speed jug blender like a Vitamix, right? You're doing multiple hits on the produce. You're basically reducing the antioxidant content, so the free radical capacity will be lower. And even worse, in a stick blender, I haven't seen one of those forever. The stick blender massively oxidizes, introduces more oxygen into the juice. It's not the heat created in these high-speed juicers that's bad. In my opinion, it's the oxygen, and this is confirmed in my opinion based on the study here. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. Vitamin C content of prickly pear juices. All right, okay, so it says conclusively the highest content of vitamin C were in juices derived using a cold press juicer, and then actually on vitamin C it was followed by a stick blender, and then a jug blender. And then lastly, commercially juiced products had the lowest vitamin C. And so that's interesting to me also. So once again, the low-speed juicer comes out on top, and then even the juicer was not as effective as getting out the vitamin C. So what are we learning here? Basically, we're learning that depending on the nutrient you're looking at, different methods of extraction may be better or worse. So in conclusion, phytochemical composition in both juice and pumice were also studied to have significant variation in content between the different techniques. Interestingly, type of method, juice versus blend, significantly affected only TPC, DPPH, and FRAP, and was also significantly correlated in PP, fruit pomace extracts. Similarly, pomace extracts also hosted correlations between TPC and DPPH, and TPC and vitamin C, and between TFC and TBC in PP juice. The most appropriate juicing method is dependent on prioritized compounds for preservation. In addition, the use of juice waste has potential to extend development of nutraceuticals and or supplements. So they're also testing the pomace, or basically the pulp that came out of the juicer, and there are still nutrients in there, not to say that they're all in the juice, right? There's still some in there, so that's why in some cases I like to actually freeze dry some of the juice pomace that I get out, or the pulp, and then take that at a separate time because there's different levels of nutrients in there. So what this article is saying clearly to me is that, if you look at certain nutrients such as antioxidant nutrients, right, the slow juicer, in my opinion, will generally favor because it's not introducing a lot of the air, although other extraction methods, including, high-speed juicing and or blending, and they did not test vacuum blending here, and so I would say if you guys want to blend and break open cell walls to get more nutrients that way, in some cases, certain nutrients may be pulled out better by a vacuum blender than even a slow juicer. And check the link down below if I remember for a link between the slow juicer and the vacuum blender, which is healthier. I mean, those are the two best ways you could process food at home, in my opinion, because some nutrients we extracted better through blending, as in that study, and some will be more extracted by juicing. So I try to use the best of those two ways on various different produce items in my life and my diet, and that's what I would encourage you guys to do also. All right. Next study right here, it's entitled An Investigation of Antidepressant Activity of Fresh Fruit Juices of Malus domestica in Experimental Animal Models. So number one, I will say that I'm staunchly against any kind of animal testing like they're doing in this experiment and maybe some of the other experiments that I'm going over. I think they should be doing human testing, and humans should be getting paid for this testing, and they could choose to do that if they want. The animals do not have a voice, and so I definitely think this is sad. But there's still something we can learn from this, and I'm not just going to ignore this testing because I'm staunchly against animal testing in laboratories, all right? So reading the abstract, mental depression is one of the most common chronic illnesses that affect the mood, although physical health and behavior of an individual. India is a rich source of medicinal plants used therapeutically to treat various disorders, including depression. This study was undertaken to evaluate the antidepressant effects of acute and chronic administration of fresh fruit juice of Malus domestica, basically apples, in experimental animal models. We used the fresh juice extracted from Malus domestica 1 ml/kg and 2 ml/kg. The standard drug used was imipramine 10 mg/kg, and the vehicle was 1% tween 1 ml/kg orally. 4 groups of animals were used, and each group had 6 animals. In the acute study, drug vehicle were administered 60 minutes prior to the experiments. In the chronic study, drug vehicles were administered for 10 days, and the last dose was given on the 10th day, 60 minutes prior to the experiment. And then they did 4 swim tests, and tail suspension tests were used for testing antidepressant activity. All right, so to continue on, it says, the antidepressant activity of 2 ml/kg was comparable to that of the imipramine 10 mg/kg, that's the drug. The present study suggests that fresh fruit juice of Malus domestica has more beneficial antidepressant activity in chronic administration of 2 ml/kg. It would be advisable to encourage consumption of Malus domestica to extract in patients with depression because of its nutritional functional properties. From present data, it concludes that fresh fruit juice of Malus domestica poses significant antidepressant activity. So, I am all for eating more fruits and vegetables, even their juices, and getting off the drugs that may have, unintended side effects and consequences, all right? So we're just going to go ahead and read off of some of the different parts of this study. It says, limitations to the use of available synthetic drugs open a way for alternative treatments in depression. So, in my opinion, synthetic drugs may not always be the right, way to treat different illnesses out there. And then it says, plants have always been a source of drugs, and herbal medicines are just one of the ancient therapies that have stood the test of time. Before there were man-made drugs made in factories, there are fruits and vegetables that had their own natural chemicals that can have beneficial effects and negative consequences actually in the human body. And it says, the most well-studied antioxidant compounds in the apples are quercetin, galacticoside, quercetin-3, glucoside, quercetin-3, raminoside, catechins, epicatechins, procyanidins, cyanin-3, galactoside, coumaric acid, chlorogenic acid, gallic acid, and physodin. And I can't pronounce all these words that good because I'm just a lay person. But basically know this, there's lots of different nutrients in something as simple as an apple like I have right here. Of course, there are certain varieties of apples that are more nutritious than others, but we're not going to talk about that in this episode. And so then they go on to say proanthocyanins, catechins, epicatechin, chlorogenic acid, physoglycerin, and the quercetin conjugates. In apple flesh, there are some catechin, proanthocyanin, epicatechin, and physoglycerin, but these compounds are found much lower concentrates than in the peels. Chlorogenic acid tends to be higher in the flesh than the peel. More recent work has shown that apple peels contain 2 to 6 times, depending on the variety, more phenolic compounds than in the flesh, and 2 to 3 times more flavonoids in the peels when compared to the flesh. So what are they saying? They're saying, do not discard the skin of the apples. Don't peel your apples and throw them away. There's a lot more nutrition in the peels than were ever thought about or discovered. And that's why I like certain methods of juicing, which really grind up and extract the nutrients out of the peel and put those in your juice, such as a slow juice that grinds and crushes. It says, several lines of evidence suggest that apples and apple products possess a wide range of biological activities which may contribute to health benefits against cardiovascular disease, asthma, obesity, pulmonary dysfunction, and cancer. Apple extracts and components, especially oligomeric proanthocyanins, have been shown to influence multiple mechanisms relevant for cancer prevention in in vitro studies. This includes anti-mutagenic activity, modulation of carcinogen metabolism, modulation of signal transduction pathways. Apple products have been shown to prevent skin mammary, and colon carcinogenesis in animal models. Apart from these mentioned edible properties of the apples, reported use for natural therapies as follows: antacid, diarrhea, okay, soft laxative, diuretics, and depurative, hearing loss. The fruit is antidepressant, antastringent, and a laxative. All right, and so I mean, an apple a day keeps a doctor away is what they said in the olden days, right? And so getting down the results, and I'll just summarize, both animal models of depression used in our experiments showed that antidepressant effect of chronic administered of the FMJMD at the dose of 2 milliliters kg was comparable to that of imipramine. Thus, the present study showed that fruit of Malus domestica possesses antidepressant activity. Apples, they're saying in this study are antidepressant. And I think, I think my personal opinion is that, we are not getting these nutrients, the phytonutrients, in our foods, in processed foods, in animal foods, in fast foods. These are not present, and we need to get back to eating more of these fruits and vegetables. And if juicing allows you to do that, I'm definitely a fan, all right? We've still got a number of studies to go over. Hopefully they're going to be pretty quick. This one is actually called Hepatoprotective effect of fresh grapes juice prepared by low-speed masticating juicer in mice. Once again, I do not agree with animal studies. And they're talking about grape juice, all right? So abstract. This study investigated the hepatoprotective effect of grape juice prepared using a low-speed masticating juicer, such as this one, or a high-speed centrifugal juicer in mice. 6-week-old mice were fed an AIN93G diet, or diet containing 1% freeze-dried LSM, that's the low-speed juice, or the high-speed grape juice for 7 weeks. Treatment with the LSM juice, low-speed juice, significantly decreased hepatic triglycerides, serum aspartate, transamine activities, and homeostatic model assessment for insulin-resistant values, whereas HSC juice, that's a juice made with a high-speed juicer, did not significantly influence these parameters. The low-speed masticating grape juice showed higher antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activities than high-speed juice. The benefits of LSM, low-speed masticating grape juice, are probably due to much higher proanthocyanin content than that of the HSC juice. These results suggest that low-speed grape juice can exert hepatoprotective effects in DB/DB mice, partly through improving insulin resistance, promoting antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activities. So what are they saying? They're saying that the low-speed juice, when the mice given it, they got a benefit, and when it was a high-speed juice, they didn't. And you think I'm full of BS when I'm saying get a low-speed juicer instead of a high-speed juicer. I mean, I have videos where I show the juice made in this juicer and how it looks watery. It does not look, that nutritious. It's oxidized. It does not taste as good to me. And I show that same juice made in a low-speed juicer, right? This is not just what I'm saying, right? It's also what the studies now are proving. And I mean, I've had previous studies where I show significant nutritional differences between high-speed and low-speed juicing. In addition, I think anything at a high speed, such as a Vitamix at a high speed, also is going to do some significant damage, according to the studies that I've seen in the past, to some of the phytonutrients and phytochemicals in the juices, all right? So I want to go ahead and read more of this, all right? And you could discover why the low-speed juicer is so much more beneficial than the high-speed, right? It'll come out. Grapes are one of the most widely consumed fruits worldwide. Grapes can be eaten whole, mainly the flesh, or processed into making juice, wine, and sauce using the flesh, skin, and seeds. Grapes contain polyphenols, including proanthocyanins, resveratrols, anthocyanins, catechins, and epicatechins, which have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activities. In a grape, the seed is the majority source of the proanthocyanins, and the skin contains most of the resveratrols, anthocyanins, and catechins. Since grape skin and seed, rather than the flesh, contain the phenolic phytochemicals, grape juice prepared from whole grapes might be a better source of antioxidant phytochemical than table grapes, which generally consume after removal of the skin and seed. Fresh grape juice can be prepared using a high-speed centrifugal juicer or low-speed juicer, which was recently developed. The high-speed juicer uses a flat blade disc rotating at 8,000 to 12,000 RPM to grind and filter the grapes, where the low-speed juicer juices by squeezing the fruit with a vertical helical spool and auger to rotating at 40 to 80 RPM. All right, so what are they saying there? They're saying, the most nutrition in the grapes, much as the apple, is in the skin itself and also the seed itself. So I would encourage you guys, as much as you possibly can, and I know it is really hard, find grapes with seeds in them and take the seeds and chew them up and chew them into a mush, a pulp, so you get all the benefits from the seeds. If you get seeded grapes, you take 2 chews, break the seed in half and swallow it, in my opinion, you're not going to get the any significant beneficial effects from the seed, because you're not basically breaking it down so that your body could digest the nutrition out of it. And that's why I think the juicing is so beneficial. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and drop down to the discussion. Okay, approximate composition and proanthocyanin content of freeze-dried LSM and HSC grape juices. So what they did was they basically juiced the juice and then they freeze-dried it to basically make a more concentrated extract, because the juice still contains a lot of the water. It may not be as powerful as using it for medicinal uses, than basically removing the water. That's why I encourage you to, make juices on a regular, consistent basis so that you get more levels of these beneficial compounds that are in the juice naturally, without necessarily having to concentrate them by freeze drying them, which most people don't have. All right. So the discussion: approximate composition and proanthocyanin content of freeze-dried LSM, low-speed juice, and high-speed grape juice. The fresh juice yielded from that low-speed juicer, 79.1 plus or minus 1.7%, was significantly higher than from the HSC high-speed juicer, 45.0 plus or minus 1.3%, P greater than 0.01, data not shown. In a previous study, a higher yield of tomato juice was reported from a low-speed juicer compared to that with a high-speed juicer, suggesting that the juice extraction mechanism may be the cause of differing yields. The approximate composition of the freeze-dried LSM and HSC juices are shown in Table 2. The proanthocyanin content of the freeze-dried LSM grape juice, 3.25 plus or minus 0.4 milligrams per gram of dry weight, has 20.3 times higher than that of the freeze-dried HSC grape juice, 0.16 plus or minus 0.0 mg per gram dry weight. Grape proanthocyanins are primarily located in the grape seed and are candidates for alleviating NAFLD. The portion of grape seeds discarded with the remnant pulp after preparing juice from a high-speed juicer is 6.7 times higher than the portion discarded by a low-speed juicer. Therefore, more grape seed is extract in juice prepared using the low-speed juicer compared to the high-speed juicer, causing higher proanthocyanin content of low-speed grape juice. This is completely evident to me by tasting grape juice or even pomegranate juice made with a press, where I just press out literally the juice, or that deep purple juice from the pomegranate, versus taking the areoles with the juice intact, putting the seeds through the juicer and getting a much more richly, deeply pigmented and actually sweeter tasting juice, because I'm getting more of those benefits of the proanthocyanins or all the other different compounds in the seed. So that's why, once again, I like the low speed juicer, because it literally crushes and grinds up the seeds, and in some cases in the form of cactus fruits, sometimes too much, so that it grinds up cactus fruit seeds into a sawdust, which then blocks up the outlet chute, which then can cause your juicer to break, actually. So check the link down below if I remember, for a video I made on juicing cactus fruits and the juicer I recommend for doing that. That won't break at a low speed, all right? All right, continuing on, let's see. Kim et al. Reported that the total phenolic contents of LSM grape juice was 3 times higher than that of the high-speed grape juice, while there may have been insufficient amounts of phenols in the HSC grape juice to alleviate fatty liver in the DBDB mice. The LSM grape juice may have contained enough polyphenols to improve hepatic steatosis and liver function. The preventative effect of low-speed juice against hepatitis steatosis may be predominantly due to the proanthocyanins. So what are they saying? Because this produced a lower quality juice, it did not have the beneficial health benefits that they thought they would get, but that they did get with the low speed juice, right? So high speed didn't have the benefits, the low speed did. And once again, if you guys are juicing, especially most of you guys aren't just juicing for fun or for taste, you're juicing for your health. And if health is important, that's why I recommend a slow juicer, and I basically don't even focus on or even sell the high-speed juicers anymore, because I know that while high-speed juicing is better than not juicing at all, it's, 3.7 times higher, 20 times higher in the freeze-dried juice of some of the proanthocyanins from the low-speed juicer versus the high-speed juicer. These numbers are insane, and the insane benefits you can get from using the right juicer. So here's the thing, I got 3 juicers on the table, and I haven't really even talked about this one over here. But if you guys are juicing like vegetables and leaves, with little fruits or fruits in with your vegetables and leaves, actually this is the gold standard in my opinion for producing the highest level of juice, because it literally grinds up and extracts the nutrients out of those skins and the rinds, the best out of any juicer. Actually, I do have a video where I compare this juicer against that juicer, where you can clearly see the difference in the color of the juice. It's a lot deeper, richer color in the Green Star Pro, which is the juicer I would recommend if you're trying to get the maximum health benefits, out of the produce you're juicing, to give your body every possible edge and every possible advantage, like the mice that had the low-speed juice did, whereas the ones out of the high-speed juicer did not. All right. So continuing on. Therefore, proanthocyanins in low-speed grape juice could contribute to the reduction of TNF-A observed in the study. TNF-A mediates insulin signaling, leading to insulin resistance, and is involved in inflammatory and metabolic alterations, leading to aggravation of NAFLD. Since oxidative stress and inflammation are important factors that can trigger a second hit of the NAFLD, LSM, low-speed grape juice, could be beneficial for decreasing oxidative stress and inflammation to inhibit the progression of NAFLD. To conclude, in this study we showed that consumption of low-speed grape juice introduced heteroprotective effects in DB mice, in part by improving insulin resistance and exerting antioxidants and anti-inflammatory activities. And that's something that they did not see using a high-speed juicer. Once again, there's a reason for my madness and a reason for what I teach, what I do online. It's because of studies like this, so I'm glad to get confirmation that I'm still on the right track, because if I got confirmation that I was not on the right track, I would change what I'm saying. I can't change all my past videos, but I can change what I'm saying from here on out. And as I learn more, I always try to share with you guys the latest information, because I am looking at the studies, unlike people that are talking out of their back end based on dogma, which really kind of bothers me that people are spreading misinformation about juices and that it's not beneficial, you don't need it, it's not going to make a difference. Yeah, say that to the mice that were in this study that unfortunately were also probably dissected after the study, which is quite sad to me. Once again, do not agree with animal studies or models. All right. Next article is Probiotic Variability, Quantitative Characteristics, and Sensory Acceptability of Vegetable Juice Mixture Fermented with Lactobacillus Strains. So this is an interesting study, and I just wanted to kind of just bring this up for you to let you know that there's that bacteria, the beneficial bacteria, can live in fresh juices. I'm not talking and can be beneficial for us. So let's go ahead and read this. This is a short one because I'm not going to really talk about this a lot. But abstract. The aim of the study was to consider the sustainability of a mixture of juices from jicama, wintermelon, and carrot as a raw medium for producing probiotic juices by lactobacillus strains, Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus acidophilus, as well as evaluate changes of physiochemical and microbiological characteristics during fermentation in cold storage, 4 degrees Celsius, 28 days. Both strains grew well in juice mixtures after 24 hours of fermentation at 37 degrees, which is about 98.6 degrees, which is basically our body temperature, reaching nearly 9 and 8 log CFU when inoculated with L. plantarum and L. acidophilus respectively. The viability of L. plantarum was near 8 log CFU/ml at the end of storage, whereas viability of L. acidophilus only remained 4.57 log CFU/ml. Degradation of total carotenoids was in the range of 12 to 23% in fermentation period and 16 to 23% during cold storage, depending on the strain used. All right, so once again, that was over 28 days. They had a loss of 12 to 23% of some of the different total carotenoids. So I do recommend that you do not stir your juice any longer than necessary. I don't like to store my juice any longer than 3 days. Check the link down below if I remember for a video I made on how to store the juice in the best way possible, in my personal opinion. So basically, they're taking juice and they're inoculating with probiotic cultures, and they're seeing if they can basically get those cultures to live. And according to this, and what I'm reading, is that they did increase in the quantities. So literally, you could use your juices as a medium to basically make a fermented juice that may make additional nutrients based on the fermentation of the bacteria, and also increase the probiotic content of your juices, which is what I'm taking from this. All right, and I do want to say a few things about this. Part of this I highlighted was fermentation were carried out in an incubator for juices inoculated with L. plantarum, in anaerobic incubator for juices inoculated with L. acidophilus. at a constant temperature of 38 degrees Celsius for 48 hours. So that works out to be 98.6 degrees. What is 98.6 degrees, or somewhere around there? That's our temperature, right? So our body provides the right temperature for proper bacterial growth. If you have the right bacteria to basically grow within us, the microbiome is huge, and it's said that bacteria, they don't like the juice because it has the fiber removed. Well, even the bacteria were able to live on the juices that they used in this study. So let's go ahead and jump more down in the study. In this present study, the product containing a combination of prebiotics and probiotics are known as symbiotics. This advantage would improve the survival of bacteria passing the upper part of gastrointestinal tract, improving their effects in the large bowel, and is able to enhance the growth of most positive gut bacteria. So what are they saying? They're basically saying, in my opinion, that because the probiotics are now on a juice carrier, they're more able to survive our digestive process, so that we could get more benefits from them, right? Because there's basically the jicama, very high in inulin, basically another kind of fiber that actually bacteria love, is probably also the winter melon and the carrot also have good fiber, even in the juices that are made with them. And then conclusion, based on present findings, L. planetarium could be used as a culture for production of probiotic drink from vegetable juice mixture with high nutrient values and health benefits. So basically, I'm going to say that if you want to experiment making your own kind of fermented vegetable juices, use the L. planetarium. That was their conclusion in this study. But know this, that just drinking vegetable juices, right, is that going to negatively impact or positively impact your personal microbiome? Microbiome, which is all your beneficial microbes that live within inside you, help us digest our food, are part of our immune system, are so beneficial. And it's said that, the bacteria inside us, they love the fiber. And when you're drinking juice, you're not feeding your bacteria, and it's not good. Well, this study shows otherwise. But let's even go further, and how just simple, a little bit of juice a day can increase your microbiome by this next study right here, right? And this is a really cool study for me because they made fresh juice in a low-speed juicer, pretty much just like this juicer, probably made in the same factory as this juicer, the Omega VSJ843. And this is titled An Exploratory Study on the Effects of Daily Fruit and Vegetable Juice on Human Gut Microbiota. So they're studying fresh fruit and vegetable juice on the human gut microbiome. Does it make it better? Does it make it worse? What did it do? This study's job was to find that out, and now I get to share with you guys. So abstract. And I want to give props to all the researchers that have done the research on all these so that I don't have to, right? And I appreciate that a lot. So Yoon Jin Choi, Dong Ho Lee, Hyun Soo Kim, and Yoon Soon Kim. Thank you so much. All right. So abstract. In order to evaluate the effect of daily consumption of fruit and vegetable juice on human intestinal microbial community, we compared changes in the gut microbiota and extracellular vesicles in human feces and bowel and skin symptoms at the baseline and 3 weeks post-juice consumption of 22 participants. After 3 weeks of juice consumption, a significant increase in the richness of microbiota was observed. All right. So we're going to get into more of this. The introduction, basically, diet is one of the most important factors affecting the composition of gut microbiota. Western diet is rich in animal proteins and fats and sugars, Cordain et al. 2005, but lacks fruits and vegetables, Grotto and Z 2010. Fruits and vegetables are good sources of dietary fiber, phytochemicals, ascorbate, folate, omega-6, polyunsaturated fatty acids, Orlick et al. 2013. Children fed fiber-rich diet showed significant richness in the members of the Bacteroides and depletion in members of the Firmicutes when compared to those fed a Western diet. D. Filippo et al. 2010. A reduction of A. Metanosophila and lactobacillus in those with a high-fat diet has been reported, Singh et al. 2017. Although a link between diet and gut microbiota has been studied extensively, the results have not been consistent, and it is largely unknown whether the daily consumption of just 1 cup of fruits and vegetable juice could alter the architecture of the fecal microbiome. And does it? Well, let's see. Okay, so changes in demographic characteristics and symptoms, and basically it says, while many studies have focused on the effects of probiotics or different geographical diets on the composition of fecal microbiota, we investigated the effects of a simple consumption of 1 cup of fruit and vegetable juice on the fecal microbiota, bowel habits, skin symptoms, and physical and mental energy. after consumption of the juice for 3 weeks, right? And that's 1 cup of juice for 3 weeks. Body weights decreased significantly from 68.96 plus or minus 9.15 kg to 66.89 plus or minus 9.10 kg. This result was shown among both men and women. Men 76.67 plus or minus 9.44 to 73.78 plus or minus 10.56, and women 63.18 plus or minus 1.60 to 61.73, 1.68. Of the 22 participants, 21 answered the symptom questionnaires. Specifically at the baseline, 15 participants had chronic fatigue, 18 had diarrhea or constipation, and 12 had skin problems, including atopic dermatitis. After 3 weeks of juice consumption, 18 of 21, 86% participants reported improvements of their major complaints. Table 2 shows the change in each symptom. So isn't that amazing? Just literally, what can 1 cup of juice do over 3 weeks, right? What's in this juice? It must be amazing. So let's go over that here. The juice was made by Huramco Ltd. using an HAA slow juicer, which is basically like the same extraction method this machine used. Slow squeezing technology uses an auger to squeeze juice from fruits and vegetables, similar to how a person would hand squeeze an orange, instead of shredding with a high-speed blade like conventional juices and blenders, to minimize the damage to the ingredients and to preserve the natural taste and nutritive content. Yeah, they make a good point. The juices made in a slow juicer taste a lot better to me than a high-speed juice or those of blended juices. And then basically the recipe they used, or basically they had only 400 milliliters of juice. It is basically kale and apple juice equal parts, and then broccoli and then lemon. So that's it. Kale, broccoli, apple, lemon juice, 400 milliliters for literally 3 weeks, and it had major beneficial effects. What can juice do to you, right? I've sold many juicers and I get testimonials all the time that, John, I need a backup juicer because I can't be without my juice because I feel so much better when I'm on it than when I'm not. And I mean, this is proven by this study here, right? So let's see here. In conclusion, it says, our study shows that the intake of fruit and vegetable juices for 3 weeks enriched the diversity of the host fecal microbiota and increased the proportion of bacteria of the genus Bacillobacterium and their EVs. Dietary intervention, eating vegetables and fruits might help alleviate bowel symptoms and fatigue. Well-controlled studies, particularly in dietary aspect with a large sample size and evaluation of the true role of EVs, are needed. All right, and you can see like they have the charts, and once again links are down below to all these studies. You can see like how the microbiota basically the types of the microbiome in the guts was enhanced a lot after drinking the juices of just adding 4 different ingredients in the diet, right? In my opinion, every different fruit and vegetable can host or feed different bacteria, and that's why it's important to get a diversity of foods in your diet. And just a simple addition of 4 fruits and vegetables in literally 400 milliliters of juice had such a beneficial effect on the microbiome. Once again, that's a juice made in this juicer. This is not the same as juice made in a pure juicer or a Norwalk juicer, where they basically filter out all the fiber. This juice keeps a little bit of the insoluble fiber in the pulp, and also, of course, puts the soluble fiber in there. And that had a beneficial effect on the microorganisms in the study there. So, just people say, juicing's bad, it removes the fiber. Well, tell that to the people that wrote this study, right? Now, this topic is interesting. Oxalate content of raw, boiled, wok fried, and pesto, and juice made from fat hen, which is Chenopodium album leaves. So fat hen, what is that? Well, fat hen is kind of related to lamb's quarters, which is, in the same as the spinach family, or New Zealand spinach, or standard spinach, high in oxalates. And it said that, oxalates are bad, we should not even include them, we should not juice them, they're toxic, all this kind of stuff. And, this would kind of like give my opinions on the oxalates, overall. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this. The total soluble and insoluble oxalate content of fresh and wok-fried fat hen, Chenopodium album leaves, were extracted and measured using high-pressure liquid chromatography. And then they go over the total oxidant content of the raw leaves. And you can read all the study. I'm not going to really get into it, but I'm basically going to jump down. Processing the cooked leaves into pesto or extracting the juice gave final products that contain significantly reduced total and soluble oxalate content, right? So So basically, over raw leaves, juicing the leaves reduce the soluble oxalate content. Why would that be, right? Well, let's go ahead and find out. The soluble oxalate content of the pesto and juice made from the leaves was relatively low because the leaf content was reduced by the addition of the other fruits and vegetables used to make a balanced mix. These products would have little negative effect in the diet because of their low soluble oxalate content. In contrast, the leaves, if consumed regularly or in large amounts, could be of considerable risk in the diet due to absorption of soluble oxalates from the raw and boiled leaves. The reduced proportion of soluble oxalates in raw cooked leaves because of binding to calcium within the leaves is advantageous as long as other calcium sources are present in the diet. So what are they saying there? So my focus is not to eat like spinach salads every night. That can be high in oxalates. I don't mind eating a spinach salad every now and then or picking a few leaves of spinach and adding it to things. But I don't want to have lots of oxalates. And here's the thing, the bacteria, based on my research, can digest the oxalates. So if you have an optimally operating bacterial microbiome, maybe they can digest the oxalates within us so they won't have the negative effect that oxalates may have in our system. That's just off the record. That's my personal belief and opinion. The next thing that they're saying, according to the study, in my opinion, and how I'm interpreting it, is that when you juice spinach, right, a lot of the pulp comes out of the spinach, and there's less soluble oxalates in the juice than if you ate the whole spinach whole because you're taking away parts of it. So that totally makes sense to me, and I think that'd be a good way to get some of the nutrients in the spinach and having less oxalates at the same time. That being said, I do not recommend juicing only spinach and only making a juice containing spinach each and every day. I encourage you guys strongly to rotate your juices because of the oxalates. In every different produce item, there are different, pro-nutrients and anti-nutrients, good nutrients, bad nutrients, however you want to look at it. And in nature's proportions, if we're rotating our diet regularly, for most people that don't have any kind of allergies or any kind of weird things going on, I personally believe, and for me, it's all right, okay? So that's that study. Final study, oh my God, we're down to the last one. It's been over an hour now. Hope you guys are still hanging out. And the topic of this one is intake of 100% fruit juice is associated with improved diet quality of adults, NHANES 2013 to 2016 analysis. I think this is like a meta-analysis. And the abstract is, fruit intake is generally associated with better diet quality and overall health. This report examined the effects of a 100% fruit juice considered a part of total fruit servings and its replacement with whole fruit equivalents on nutrient intake and diet quality, all right? And we'll jump down to the abstract on the bottom. Results show that 100% fruit juice intake was associated with better diet quality and higher nutrient intake. Replacement of 100% fruit juice intake with whole fruits equivalent had no significant effect on nutrients except for dietary fiber, which is quite interesting. So basically they're saying they still got the benefits from drinking the juice as from eating the whole fruits minus the fiber in terms of the nutrition or nutrients, all right? So let's read off part of the introduction. Increased fruit and vegetable consumption are associated with reduced risk of CVD, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and stroke, and their low intake is linked with poor health and increased risk of chronic diseases. Fruits and vegetables are an important source of a number of key nutrients, including K, Mg, dietary fiber, folate, vitamins A and C, and an array of bioactive substances. Due to their nutritional value, they are consistently recommended by public health authorities globally, and increasing their consumption is an important public health goal. And then they go over the dietary guidelines, and it says, despite these recommendations, there is a huge gap between recommendations and consumption. In 2015, only 12.2% of U.S. adults, 9.2% male, and 15.1% female met fruit intake recommendations. 12% met fruit intake recommendations of adults. That's so sad. And 9.3% of adults, 7.6% male, and 10.9% female, females I guess generally eat healthier than males, met vegetable intake recommendations. So I'm all talking about fruit, but man, the vegetable intake recommendations are even lower, and in my opinion, vegetables are even more important to eat than the fruits because of their more concentrated phytonutrient capacity as well as lower caloric values in general. So that's why I really think you guys should be juicing your vegetables, even more so, especially the leafy green vegetables and the fruits. All right, let's go ahead and continue on, all right? And it says, the fruit requirement can be met by consuming fresh, frozen, dried, whole fruit, or 100% juice. So that is considered, in the current My Plate by the dietary guidelines, all right? And going on further, it says, the main purpose of this study was to provide an update evaluation of the association of 100% fruit juice consumption by consumption level and the effect of replacing 100% fruit juice with whole fruit equivalents on nutrient intake and dietary quality using the most recent National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, NHANES 2013 to 2016 database. This is like a meta-analysis where they basically analyze data and compare fruit juice, compare 100% fruit juice, compare with whole fruit equivalents, right? So let's find out what they found out, right? So basically it says consumers of 100% fruit juice had better diet quality as assessed by the HEI 2015 in the present analysis. 100% fruit juice consumers had significantly higher intakes of calcium, magnesium, potassium, thiamine, folate, vitamin B6, vitamin C, vitamin D, and beta-cryptoxanthin, and intake of these nutrients except thiamine increased with increasing levels of 100% fruit juice intake. Many of these nutrients are currently underconsumed and have been identified as shortfall nutrients by the DGA, that's Dietary Guidelines. And then let's see, moving down further. And so what are they saying there? They're basically saying that if you drank fruit juice, you had higher levels of some of these different phytonutrients and vitamins within you, probably due to your fruit juice consumption, because if you didn't have the fruit juice, you might have not eaten the fresh fruit to get those same nutrients. Especially because of convenience. You could, drink a juice super easy. Getting some fruit, washing it, preparing it, maybe a little more challenging for some people. I don't really have a problem. I just eat organic blueberries out of the package, before I even get home from Costco sometimes. But yeah, once again, I encourage you guys personally to eat more fruits. I prefer to vacuum blend my fruits instead of juice them, unless there's something like I wouldn't normally eat otherwise, or I have apples and I have a lot of them and I don't want to eat them because I'd rather eat them. But I like to juice them sometimes to make my juice a little bit sweeter, more palatable, and also give me the benefits of that apple peel that I might not be actually chewing up and getting the best digestion of myself, whereas my juicer does it consistently each and every time, all right? All right, so going on, a major limitation of the study is to use the cross-sectional study design, which cannot be used to determine cause and effect. The dietary intake data were self-reported, recalls relying on memory and potentially subject to reporting bias, while dietary recalls in NHANES were collected using one of the best available and validated methodology, the AP-PM method. There are still limitations with it. So what they're saying, this is a meta-analysis, so the data might not be totally accurate, but this is their conclusions based on the data and the associations, but it's not causation. So this study is a bit weaker than some of the other ones that I pointed out where they actually did do more, solid testing. All right, conclusions. Results from this study show that consumption of 100% fruit juice was associated with better nutrient intake, and the diet quality and association was also related to the consumption level. Isocaloric replacement of 100% fruit juice with a whole fruit equivalent had no effect on nutrition intake except for a small increase in dietary fiber. All right, so with that being said, do I recommend drinking 100% fruit juice? No, I still don't, right? I always encourage you guys to juice more vegetables, juice a little bit of fruit in there, and drinking fruit juice, once again, is better than drinking a soda or many other different beverages that you may grab off the shelf otherwise, including kombucha that uses added sugar, to get the sweetness in there and gets you addicted. You could make fresh juices, you could carbonate them. I have done that in the past and make basically carbonated beverages made with fruit or vegetable juices, right? And here's my message, right? The message today is that juicing can be beneficial for many people, especially people that are not eating enough fruits and vegetables. If you're in the category of not eating enough fruits and vegetables and you raise your hand, then juicing is a benefit for you, right? If you're one of those people like me that already eats copious amounts of fruits and vegetables, right? Maybe juicing is not going to be as helpful, But I would argue that for me, juicing is quite helpful because it allows me to eat fruits and vegetables that I would not normally eat and actually eat higher quantities of them so I could displace other foods. So for example, my diet is based around fruits and vegetables. If I didn't use my juicer, I would have to eat a lot more fruit to get my calories than vegetables. By juicing, I can literally compound 4 pounds of vegetables into 1 cup, into 32 ounces of juice, and get calories now from vegetable juices instead of eating 4 pounds of vegetables, which I could not do, and I don't have the stomach capacity to do that. So now I can eat more and get more of the benefits from the vegetables than eating more fruits to get all my calories on my specific diet program. I think fruit and vegetable juicing, I will always be a big advocate for. It may not be right for everybody, but so please check in with yourself. But for most people, I think fruit and vegetable juicing is of great benefit. Hopefully you've also learned in this episode that, you know, different fruits and vegetables have a lot of different phytonutrients and phytochemicals that the juicer can help make more bioavailable to you. That's another thing that really I didn't talk about or didn't find a study regarding this, that, you know, in my opinion, when you remove some of the fiber out of the juices, it makes it more bioavailable and easier to digest in our bodies, especially after eating years and years of animal foods in excess, processed foods, junk foods. A lot of people, in my opinion, don't have the best digestive system. And by removing the fiber, making it easier for their body to digest, they're more apt, and their body is more apt to basically digest and get the nutrition out of these fruits and vegetables that may normally give people gas and bloating because of all the extra fiber and the fiber they're not used to and all this thing. But more importantly, inoculate their system with the beneficial probiotics, you know, they talked about in your gut, so that when you start eating more of a healthy diet, you can get those more into, and you're not going to have all the bad reactions that you may have had otherwise. All right, and that's pretty much it. If you guys are looking for a juicer, I encourage you guys to check all my other links down below for some videos I made on these juicers, as many others. I try to compare all the major brand juicers on the market to basically share with you guys my information and my tips with you guys, and why juicing is so beneficial. It has helped me, it's helped thousands of my customers that I've sold juicers to, and hopefully it could help you too. And hopefully now, you know, you just have a little bit more confidence that juicing is actually a health food as described in the scientific literature, and that it can be beneficial for you. I mean, one of the other things that stood out, it was just a little small sentence, but it talked about, you know, if you're eating like a high fat diet, right, that does not increase your gut microbiota diversity, and the fruit juices did. So, you know, I would say that, you know, getting more, you know, wide variety of fruits and vegetables in your diet. If you're on a high fat or some kind of keto diet, hey man, juice more of the low carbohydrate vegetables to get those into you, so you can increase your micro diversity and get some of the phytonutrients and phytochemicals in from the leafy greens without that carbohydrate that you guys might be lacking. You know, and that's a whole nother topic I'm not going to get into. So that's pretty much it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, want me to do more videos of the reviews, which I may only do once a year because, like, or, you know, I don't want to do them too often. Takes a lot out of me to research all this stuff and share with you guys. Please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also be sure to share this video with plant-based doctors that may not believe in the power of juicing because of the fruits and vegetables that they recommend so much, because you are removing some but not all the fiber. You know, there are plenty of studies that show clearly to me, and hopefully now to you, that juicing can be a beneficial part, and I'm not saying, you know, only thing you're doing, can be a beneficial part of a whole food plant-based diet, you know, used in appropriate moderation for your specific circumstance to get more of the beneficial compounds in these fruits and vegetables in you, to increase your microdiversity and increase the different disease, you know, fighting processes that we have in our body inherently. All right. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right now, so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes that are coming out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll share what we'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure to click the little bell to get notified as my new videos come out. Finally, be sure to check out past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 500 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to comparing and contrasting all the different appliances, including juicers, vacuum blenders, and maybe some dehydrators too, that allow you to get more fruits and vegetables in you, which are the best foods on the entire planet based on my research and according to some of the journal published studies I've seen. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.